Hey folks, Matt Wilson with BTB Security, back for this week's edition of BTB Reacts. A lot's happened in the cybersecurity world over the last week or so. A little over a week and a half ago, our world was upended by news of the Microsoft Exchange issues. A series of vulnerabilities, extremely devastating, tens of thousands of organizations likely impacted, with a lot more probably to come in terms of fallout. This is not a technical in-depth of what happened. There's plenty of good sources out there, and we'll link to some below. But what I wanted to do was highlight some good content put out there by Brian Krebs, always a good source, on what the timeline is or was with respect to this, because that's something I haven't seen too many folks dig into besides Brian Krebs, who's always good. His background in investigative journalism, I'm sure, plays a part. So what I want to do is take a couple minutes to give an overview kind of what happened, what's known for sure, and what everyone kind of thinks is going to happen next. So this is an article Krebs released a few days ago. And if we get to the right one here. So he has a basic timeline of the Microsoft Exchange mass hack. He includes plenty of links to various sources that will give you the in-depth technical write-ups. There's a lot of good vendors here, other cybersecurity firms that have very good write-ups on it. Again, I encourage everyone to go to this article, check out Krebs, make it part of your daily reading, maybe multiple times a day, although he's not that active. He does some really high quality content, but I'm going to scroll down and spend a moment or two talking about the timeline that is believed to be known so far. And here's the kind of scary thing that this highlights. A couple of items. It's not that surprising that this was reported in early January and then it was fixed in early March. That's, don't give Microsoft too much negative feedback there on that. Sometimes these things take a little bit to fully understand and remediate, especially with something as massive as Exchange. But then you had a number of other firms kind of jump in and report, I'll call them somewhat related vulnerabilities that involve Exchange. And then you see that as we scroll down, Trend Micro here in late January, they published a blog called Chopper about web shells being dropped in with Exchange via some Exchange flaws. That to me is a big tell in terms of how these things operate. We've brought it up before that vulnerabilities that are disclosed, they sometimes group up around certain technologies, certain areas of code. And I'm not saying that's absolutely positively happened here, but all the evidence kind of points to that, right? When you see same kind of TTPs being employed over and over again, and all kind of dancing around the same kinds of issues, it highlights how difficult it is to remediate some of these things, not excusing it, but just explaining it. So Trend Micro in late January, and that to me also signals how difficult it is to be ahead of this stuff, right? I mean, late January, there was inklings of this being released to the greater public. And it still wasn't as devastating until we didn't know how devastating it was until early March. It looks like, in February, there's some back and forth between various cybersecurity firms and Microsoft. That's responsible disclosure and action. And then as you scroll down, DevCore researcher Orange Sai, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly and give him or her credit, reports that their biggest vulnerability ever is probably coming. Now, I don't know his or her history, but again, more indications of some pending doom for the rest of us. And a day later, we have tens of thousands, March 3rd, tens of thousands of servers being compromised worldwide. And I can't say we necessarily saw it within our clients that we monitor, because many of them have shifted gears. But we certainly did have a handful of clients that went into incident response mode and had to work through that with them. When it hits the White House, when cybersecurity issues, I should say, hit the White House, that's something that I think we should all kind of peek our ears up, even if we're not in information security. I think that gets the attention of our boards, of our C-suites. If Bloomberg News or CNBC or whatever your business news form, Fox Business, whatever it might be, if they're covering it, it's something that's probably going to affect not just the stock market and business interactions, but likely impact IT and information security departments in a meaningful way. So it wasn't until about March 5th or 6th that it really took hold. I remember seeing, again, the reports late on, I believe it was like a Tuesday, but could have been that Microsoft, or it could have been a Tuesday that first hit. And then it was the next day where it really blew up, and we had a ton of clients reaching out to us. We issued an alert via our BTB alerts Twitter handle. And since then, we've all been trying to deal with the fallout. And the thing to consider going forward is what Krebs alludes to here at the very end, stage 2. Many folks have wondered about stage 1 and why it was kind of so haphazard. And I don't think anyone can definitively know. But what I think we can be sure about is this impacted a ton of organizations globally, most of which are not well equipped to deal with it. So that's one. Another consideration in that for the attacker side is, why would they kind of spray this so vastly? And perhaps they were doing it. There's been some theories that said they're doing it to kind of hide their actual targets and the real victims that they're going after. And that's also a potential, but it could just be a big grab, right? There's a lot of potential explanations for this, but moving forward, this is the thing that everyone needs to know. And whether they're your friend or not, if you know someone that has Exchange on-prem, reach out to them, because stage 2 is theorized at present to be mass ransomware or some kind of mass attack. I think there's likely that we'll see some DDoS attacks that are leveraging these systems that are likely connected to decent links and have probably some okay horsepower in terms of processing power. Not that the bad guys necessarily need that so much these days, but it is something to consider as part of what might happen moving forward. So stage 1 was compromise it all. Stage 2 is do something with it. We haven't really seen stage 2 right now, and everyone's rushing to patch as they should. So again, if you know anyone that's running on-prem Exchange, you're running on-prem Exchange, patch it up immediately, back up your data immediately, and take a good look at your monitoring and response process. That's all I wanted to cover for today. It was just a brief timeline of the Exchange vulnerabilities. I think that's something that everyone should kind of pay attention to because it's not covered a ton, and it's something that can inform how you deal with this stuff moving forward, right? Don't just assume that Microsoft Tuesday is going to bail you out. This stuff could have been laying in wait. And one of the other articles that Krebs links to talks about how Microsoft went above and beyond to patch Exchange Server 2010, which has been out of support for some time. And that means this stuff has been sitting around vulnerable. These servers have been technically vulnerable for over a decade. That's not something you're going to have built into your incident response plan. So play it forward, work on those detection side, work on the detection side of the house for your organization. That's it. Thank you, everyone. Again, please follow us on Twitter and YouTube. Connect with us. Let us know what you want to see us react to next. Thanks.